What's up, y'all? It's Wednesday.
It has to not be Wednesday. I'm going to need
I don't even know what day. I can't make it through another 2 days.
I have lived 7 days just this morning.
We have 7 lives just today. Oh, but the day is not over, and tonight I feel is going to be dramatic.
Yeah. Yeah, what are we doing about tonight?
Well, tonight we have the follow-up game between the Capitals and the Rangers. And after the Rangers' little announcement, I'm not sure what the vibe is going to be. I can only imagine that it'll be rather tense, to say the least. For anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, I will read this statement that was distributed by the New York Rangers organization yesterday. They said, and I'm reading straight off of it, the New York Rangers are extremely disappointed that Capitals forward Tom Wilson was not suspended for his horrifying act of violence last night at Madison Square Garden. Wilson is a repeat offender with a long history of these types of acts, and we find it shocking that the NHL and their Department of Player Safety failed to take the appropriate action and suspend him indefinitely. Wilson's dangerous and reckless actions caused an injury to Artemi Panarin that will prevent him from playing again this season. We view this as a dereliction of duty by the NHL head of player safety, George Parros, and believe he is unfit to continue his current role.
Poor George Parros, man, you're fucked.
That was a lot for the Rangers to post, but I think it was reasonable.
Yeah, so my take there is, and I tweeted it very delicately because obviously the phrase horrifying act did not go over well with a lot of people. I think that was a very bold choice of words, but I also want to applaud the Rangers for speaking out in the first place. No team has ever really done that. And I think that is really huge of them to say, like, you know what, this is not okay. And whether you agree with the what's the word, like arguments around what Wilson did, the lack of, the NHL addressing it is kind of a slap in the face to the Rangers. And I think that the Rangers, whether the Capitals, whether Tom Wilson deserved a hearing or not, the Rangers expressing their opinion is huge.
Yeah, that's just something we don't see. So definitely making a bold statement. I think there are certain parts, I think it's totally fair for them to say, we're disappointed in the outcome. Panarin is not coming back this season, which I don't know if we knew that at this point yesterday, but we do know that now.
We assumed it.
So.
Yeah, I mean, we assumed it. I think it's not surprising. I mean, they only have 3 games left. They were eliminated in that game. Their loss didn't help, but the Bruins only needed 1 point to knock them out anyway, and the Bruins did get 1 point in overtime that night. So the Rangers, like we said yesterday, their emotions were already running high prior to Tom Wilson literally injuring 2 of their players. So, again, it'll be interesting to see tonight. There's one other point of controversy from last night that we weren't really expecting, and I did see it a couple times on Twitter that Sidney Crosby has had a couple questionable hits comparable to what Tom Wilson did to Artemi Panarin. And then he did it to Kevin Hayes last night.
Meanwhile, a Flyers player is someone who ends up with a hearing.
Shayne Gostisbehere is going to Shayne Gostisbehere is going to NHL player safety, which granted, Shayne Gostisbehere probably should be going to NHL player safety because he did hook, I don't remember which Penguins player it was.
Friedman.
Okay, so he did hook him after he shot, and he went awkwardly into the boards. That was a bad play. He should get a hearing. However, Sidney Crosby takes Kevin Hayes by the head. Granted, Kevin Hayes has his helmet on. Whatever. Potato. But he takes Kevin Hayes by the helmet and shoves his head into the ice. And obviously, Sidney Crosby is going to get special treatment no matter what from the NHL. We debate this all the time about how Connor McDavid can get away with whatever he wants because he's by far the best player in the league. Sidney Crosby's not going to get a hearing. He's not going to get a fine.
Right. And it's one of those things where if you as a player don't do this often, I think they're more willing to let it go. Sid does not really instigate fights, but if someone goes after him, he's not going to back down.
But it's not though. It's
but
no. What I'm saying is your head and putting it into the ice.
No, right. But it was provoked. But But I'm saying if like people like Tom Wilson do it when it's just so naturally in his like being as a hockey player to do it, it's gonna get more attention. But I do think Sid should at least have a fine.
Yeah, like, no, he should be fined 100%.
To what Tom Wilson did.
The other
nothing's happening.
The other point to note there is that Sidney Crosby did it while the play was live, and Tom Wilson, they did not review his play with Artemi Panarin because the play was dead.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he was fined for the Pavel Buvnevich hit and not the Panarin hit.
Which I think is ridiculous that they can't still.
Oh, they can't. It has to be more egregious.
Right. How much worse do these hits have to be for that to be like held accountable?
I mean, we've seen worse, which is like frustrating. Again, it takes into account Emily Kaplan from ESPN put it a good way that they don't take prior history into account until they consider the egregiousness of the hit. So even though it was Tom Wilson, if it were Sidney Crosby doing this hit, they're probably not going to take it into consideration. But Twitter blows up because it was Tom Wilson. And they're like, how many more times can this guy do this? Blah, 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 until somebody gets hurt. As bad as it is, somebody does have to get hurt for them to look at it.
Yeah. My dad texted me about it. And my dad and I don't text about the Capitals because he like grew up as a Penguins fan, which is where I get mine from. But we don't talk about it because he doesn't want to hear what I have to say. And he literally texted me last night when I was already in bed and goes, Tom Wilson should be in jail. And I was like,
well, that's a bold take.
I did not respond because I was like, I'm not getting into this argument with you tonight. But like, there's some strong feelings. But that's the thing. Like, my dad is never going to say Sid's hit was rough. It's just like, which is kind of the reaction we're getting from like Capitals Nation is that people are like, not all, but a lot of people are just like, it's hockey, but it's like, it's not hockey. It's a safety issue at this point.
Yeah. So we know, well, it'll be interesting to see the game tonight. That's the only game out of the East tonight, but kind of shifting back to last night's score out of the East, nothing happened in terms of shifting the standings. I don't believe.
Actually, the Penguins are in first now.
Oh, well, you guys were tied for first. So nothing significant happened in the East.
However, we have the most games played, which is why that's in our favor right now.
Oh, yeah. You only have 2 games left.
We only have 2 left, whereas both the Caps, you guys have 4, and the Islanders have 3. So that kind of puts us at a disadvantage here, but we'll see what happens.
Correct. So then last night, the Penguins did beat the Flyers 7-3 after you guys lost to 7 goals.
I think that was Jari's 100th NHL game. So good for Tristan
cute?
Jari. That's the only nice thing I will ever say about him. Congratulations on 100. Moving on.
So then going into a shootout, the Islanders take a bad loss to the Sabres. That's
their second one. Sabres in this set.
Yeah. Well, lucky for them, the Bruins, like I said yesterday, choke city, lost to the Devils. Thank God the Devils aren't in the playoffs because the Bruins would lose. They would get swept. They can't win. Granted, Halak was in goal, and surprisingly, a lot of Bruins fans were actually okay with Halak being in goal because they wanted him to fight for his backup spot. We have 4 fine goaltenders. I don't know why
it's ridiculous.
I don't know why we're relying on the 37-year-old on a contract year that's going to retire at the end of the year. Like, just put him on the bench. Like, I don't know.
Shout out to my gallon water bottle here too.
Whatever. So Halak let in 4 goals to the Devils in a game that we probably should have won, but we being the Bruins are still in third by 1 point. The Islanders sit in 4th. So we'll see. In the Central, there was only 1 game.
Are we not going to talk about Halak's reaction?
He smashed his stick. I mean, I'm not surprised at all. Whatever.
He smashed his stick, smashed the boards, and then kicked over a stool behind the bench.
Yeah, you should.
Okay, but when Carter Hart did it, everyone reacted. Now that Halak does it, it's like, oh, damn.
Well, Halak is a 37-year-old about to retire. Carter Hart is 22 and should be in the bud of his career.
Whatever. Okay.
All right. So in the Central, the Hurricanes, again, unsurprisingly, beat the Blackhawks 6-3. I feel like I say that literally every day. In the North, there was also only 1 game. The Oilers beat the Canucks 4-1. Again, an unsurprising revelation. Tonight, we go into a bunch of different playoff scenarios. There's a playoff scenario for every single division that has not set they're 4 in stone. So everyone but the East.
Yes. Let's start with the Central because they only have 2 games tonight. One being the Lightning versus Dallas, which will come into play in this. But what's really important here is the Preds taking on the Blue Jackets. So the Predators can clinch that number 4 spot if they have to do 2 things have to happen tonight. They need to beat the Blue Jackets in any form, and Tampa needs to beat Dallas in regulation.
Okay.
Both of those need to happen. They need to win in any form, and Dallas needs to not get any points tonight for them to clinch that 4th spot.
So the Predators have 3 games left, one of them being tonight's game. They sit at 60 points. The Stars have 4 games left, and they sit at 56 points. So if the Stars are able to pull out a win tonight and the Predators lose, that'll be a huge game changer. But again, you're running out of games here. Like every single point counts. And if either of these games go to overtime, the Stars are screwed.
Yeah. So we will see what happens with that. Then moving out to the West, every West team is playing tonight. The one here that is up for grabs for the playoffs is the Blues will clinch the 4th spot if both of these things happen. They have to beat the Ducks tonight, which is reasonable. And the Coyotes need to beat the Kings in regulation, which, correct me if I'm wrong, they did not do 2 nights ago.
That's just interesting. The Coyotes have to win for the Blues to clinch, since the Coyotes sit at 50 points with 3 games left, but the Blues sit at 55 points
because they'll only then have 2 games left.
Yeah.
And so that's why.
Okay. Interesting.
That seems weird to me too, but it is what it is. This is what the pros are saying. We're not.
I'm not doing that. There are 2 other games tonight in the West. There's the Vegas versus the Wild, which will actually be an interesting game because it might be a matchup in the playoffs. Again, the points in the West are just about as close as they are in the East for the top 3 teams. And then similarly, the Avalanche take on the Sharks. The Sharks actually weren't looking horrible at the end of the season. They just were too far gone in terms of points to make any catch up. So,
if the Kings lose and the Sharks win, they could come in 6th.
They'll swap.
Yeah.
So moving on to the North, the Jets, the poor Jets could actually clinch their playoff spot today. They sit at 57 points. They've had 57 points for days.
Literally like decades. Like this has gone on too long.
They're tied with 57 points in 51 games with the Canadiens, sitting in 3rd, though, because they have more wins and the Canadiens have more overtime losses. However, the Jets can clinch a playoff berth if they beat Calgary in regulation. Similarly, the Canadiens are playing the Senators, but the Canadiens cannot clinch tonight.
Yeah, and the issue here is that Calgary has 6 games left. So they can technically catch the Canadiens, which is why the Jets need this win tonight to get it out of reach for them. But
the Jets need this win tonight because if they lose and the Canadiens win, they're not only are they not clinching, the Canadiens are hopping into 3rd and the Jets are slipping to 4th.
Mm-hmm. They both need wins tonight, to be honest, because that'll get them far enough, I think, away from the Flames, where the Flames will have to be undefeated the rest of the season to actually get that spot, if even possible. But that's what's happening tonight. So a lot of moves can be made tonight. Central, West, North, all fighting for spots.
Actually, one important thing to note is that the Flames, they played the Jets tonight, but then their last 5 games, they have 1 against the Senators and 4 against the Canucks.
Yeah.
So, not that I'm saying it's possible, but anything.
In the words of Justin Bieber, never say never. I hate that I just said that.
Anything is possible.
Anything can happen, and we will cover it the entire way. So I'm very excited to see what happens with the Caps and the Rangers tonight. I think that's going to be the game to watch. But
I do think the Canadiens can get 3rd in the North. I think the Jets look absolutely horrendous.
I don't think either of them deserve to be there at the moment, but that's just me.
No, I think they deserve to be there. I mean, I don't think either of them's making it out of the North.
If you're looking at like the whole North Division, they deserve to be there of the rest of them. But like in the grand scheme of the league, not a playoff team.
But well, that's what the division play is for.
Yeah, so I guess that's what will have to happen. We will see them. But anyway, we will be sure to post about everything from tonight, and we will recap it all tomorrow, let you guys know what is happening, who clinches, who does not, and the new scenarios that happen tomorrow. In the meantime, find us on Twitter, @SweetheartsPod, Instagram /Sweethearts, and we'll post all of the updates you need to know.
Thank you, guys.